My name is Deborah. I'm from the School of Management and I'm a senior lecturer. Well, I've been at Swansea University now since 2004, and throughout that time I've worked in the School of Management through its various evolutions. I have focused on financial reporting as my primary area of interest, but I also teach on the finance courses, which I really enjoy. My primary area of responsibility is financial accounting, which is dealing with the preparation of financial statements to communicate to investors outside the organisation the performance of the organisation over a period of time. It's a fundamental part of the degrees that we do, because all of the degrees that we do are designed to get accreditation for professional exams, and the professional exams all require financial accounting as part of that. Over the years, interestingly, I've had a new module every year for one reason or another. Initially, because when we were developing the accounting and finance programme, I taught new modules every year as we developed them. But then as I've moved on, I've picked up teaching corporate finance, international financial management, and other subjects that are more in the finance area, which is probably now where my individual interest lies. But I still do the bulk of my teaching within financial accounting. Well, it's always hard to assess that for yourself. I mean, I think to a certain extent the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The results that students get, I believe, when I look at them, both in isolation for the topic and in then the bigger picture of how they're doing overall, seem to produce fair results that I think reflect the work and the knowledge and the skills that the students exhibit. Always there are surprises, people perform very, very well, and unfortunately there are also disappointments, people who just didn't get it right for one reason or another. So from that point of view, I mean, one of the things that I'd like to think about is the ability to reassess, and that's something that we don't do at all at the moment, when the students just had a mare of a day and you know that they're better than they have demonstrated, and they don't get a second chance, whereas in the workplace or in life, then you do. Well, for me, the most important thing about assessment is that it fits the learning objectives, and so it depends what the learning objectives are. Sometimes, if the learning objective is something like problem solving, then you have to give short, sharp assessments regularly throughout the year. If the learning assessment is developing the ability to evaluate something, then you need to give students the time over the course of the term to develop those skills so that they can carry out the assessment. Most of our programmes have been changed this year to a very standardised assessment, but in the past, when we've had more of a diversity in assessment, we've used assessments from week 4 through, coursework assessments from week 4 through week 10, and then we've always got, within a university setting, the exams. Well, assessment is useful for several reasons. From the formative point of view, you're using it as a diagnostic to tell you what students know so that you don't waste your time telling them what they already know. And then also, summatively, it's a benchmark. It gives security to, for example, in financial accounting, to professional bodies that we're examining to the same standard as they are. So I think it is necessary. What we need to think more about is when it happens and how it happens, and does it need to happen under timed conditions? Does it need to happen under open conditions, depending on what it is we're trying to assess? So I think it is a vital part of any learning to check that the learning, to see the improvements being made. But I think it's very important that, as I said earlier, that we match the assessment to the learning objectives to make sure that what we're testing, what we're reviewing, is actually what we want the students to be learning. One of the things that I do is I talk about the assessment right from the word go, partly because the students always want to know, what do I need to do to pass the exam? I try to broaden their thinking a little bit more than just what do I need to do to pass the exam, to what do I need to do to be successful in my learning, and together we discuss what success is. So usually in our first lecture we talk about what would make this a successful module for you. And for most people, getting a 60% plus is normally part of that process. So then we discuss, well, how does that happen? What do you need to do? So attending lectures, attending seminars, doing the reading, but also then sort of thinking. And I think that's the bit that students need to understand better about what they need to do. So one of the things that concerns me always in assessment, in particular in exams, is that you get very much surface learning. People cram it the 2 weeks before the exam and then 2 days later they've forgotten it. So it's making sure that they understand from the very beginning what I'm looking for. Yes, I think lots of students prefer coursework to exams because there's always that exam pressure, and there are very definite exam skills like time management, focusing on the requirements of the question, that not all students have. And so for a lot of students, I think they prefer coursework. And that's absolutely fine, but like anything, sometimes you need to put students under a bit more of a pressure situation to get to the deep learning, that it's only when you put them under that pressure that they realise how much they do know and that they can answer the questions. But I think one of the things that I tried to do, for example, when I was programme director, was to make sure that across the programme we had a diversity of assessment, so that those who preferred coursework had the opportunities to show what they could do in coursework. Those who preferred exams also had the opportunity there. And within the coursework we had a wide range. We worked very hard to try and embed other skills, for example the employability skills, communication, presentations and so on, within the range of assessment that we did. Students recognise the importance of assessment in the sense that their focus is always, what do I need to do to pass the exam? And I think that's one of the things that's quite disappointing as a sort of lecturer, that you want them to enjoy the subject or the topic for its own sake and to enjoy exploring it and developing their ideas. Whereas for several of them, they only want to know what they need to do to pass the exam. I think that's one of the joys of teaching at level 3, is that there you do find students who are getting so deeply into the exam or into the topic, that they then go on and develop their own knowledge and come to you with discussional points, which is just amazing when that happens. So I don't think they understand the way that lecturers use the assessment, in the sense of we're using it formatively to assess, to diagnose, to see how they're doing, to see what improvements they're making, and then the summative assessment, which gives them that final grade. I don't think they understand the differences between those and perhaps what we're trying to achieve with them, because sometimes students are not ambitious enough in their formative assessment to try something new, to see whether or not it works and whether or not it gets additional grades or whatever. So I don't know that it's a conversation that we have, but I don't know that we're talking the same language yet in terms of understanding what it's for. Yes, I do enjoy teaching. I love working with the students, working with 18 to 25-year-olds who are basically quite bright, quite enthusiastic a lot of the time, some of the time not so much, maybe 9 o'clock in the morning. The bit that I get most excited about is just seeing them starting their journey into adulthood and thinking about their careers and what they'd like to do, and so many different aspirations and ideas of where to go and how to get there. And I just love being around that, and I just get a huge amount of energy from that. The one thing that I'm trying to change this year is the reflectiveness of my work. Life is very busy, work is very busy, there's so much going on, it's hard to find time to sit down and review what you've done, but following what Michael said at the Make One Change meeting, that's what I'm trying to do. So when I come out of a class now, I sit down only for a short period of time, think about what went well, what didn't go so well, what would I change, what else could I do, how could I do this differently, and just make some notes so that I'm making the notes while it's clear in my mind. And already, I'm only 3 weeks in, but already I'm finding it really useful to go back and look at those notes to help me then prepare for my next lecture. So looking forward to seeing it coming out, and hopefully it'll make the module review process easier at the end of the day.